let's check out Mick Foley's thoughts on AEW, as well as some lasting thoughts on WWE.
Hey, everybody. It's the hardcore legend, Mick Foley. I know it's been a week since I made my debut on AEW, but I just wanted to spend a couple minutes thanking everybody involved for making it such a special night for me.
Now, that's Mick Foley, who recently dropped a video on his thoughts on his AEW debut and what he thought about the whole event. And we'll get to that. But what's more important is him going on the Ariel Helwani, where he breaks his silence about going into AEW and his final thoughts on WWE. So let's hear a last minute segment and from this interview, and we'll go through that.
And for giving us a few minutes here today.
Hey, thanks for your time, Ariel. I really appreciate it.
All the best.
Have a nice day.
Wow, thank you so much. There he is, the one and only Mick Foley.
Look at him getting the have a nice day. Anyway, that was lovely. But this is Mick Foley, if you guys haven't heard or know. A WWE Hall of Famer, 30 years tied to the company, the everyman. If you've never heard of that phrase, he's the hardcore legend. And in December, he quietly walked away from WWE. As far as we know, no bridges were burned, no screaming match on why he left. He just left. And then a few months later, he's standing in an AEW ring telling the crowd, thank you. So what pulled him back into wrestling? Well, let's find out. Welcome to the T-Drop, where the brew is strong and there's a lot to talk about. So let's get into this drop. For anyone just turning in, right? This is Mick Foley. Cactus Jack to some, Dude Love to others. One of the greatest in-ring storytellers out there. And arguably the best author wrestling has produced as well. The man told it like it is for 30 years now. He sat down with Ariel Helwani for probably nearly an hour, I believe, right? And for the most part, he laid out the whole thing out. So I'm not here to put words in his mouth. The receipts are going to be throughout this video and we can talk about it. And we're going to roll his actual words. Here's where it gets interesting. This wasn't a guy chasing a paycheck or a younger audience. This was a man who genuinely fallen out of love with wrestling and found out, again, somewhere he didn't expect. That a lot of things can be true at the same time, but let me show you how. So why did he go? Well, we're going to rewind it back here and start in the video. So he's going to explain to Ariel Helwani how did it go in his own words. And I want you to hear it.
I sometimes describe someone's big break as being more like a series of little breaks, like a ball peen hammer on a windshield. You don't know which tap actually causes the crack, but without a multitude of them, that windshield's not cracking at all. So for me, it was the comments about Rob Ryner, just heartless.
Rob Ryner, wow.
Unbelievably cruel comments coming from the most powerful man in the world, finding joy in how somebody died. I don't want to paraphrase, but belittling the man who just died, somehow tying it into his own death, into Reiner's dislike of Donald Trump. And for me, that was the ball peen hammer tap that broke the windshield. And I just think WWE had a very cozy relationship where there was definitely the illusion of a relationship there, the perception, rather. I think when
Okay, so as you can see for Foley, the decision came down to where he stood, which was morality. And he was open that this was his line, as you can see. So he chose that. Let's continue.
different people are posing in the Oval Office, and they've all received Stone Cold Stunners. That's a little cozy. And Ariel, I felt like even though I wasn't technically employed by the company, but because I had a Legends deal, because my name's been associated with WWE for over 30 years, that I was complicit in my silence.
So he chose not to re-sign his Legends deal from this point forward, which ran out at the end of that month, whichever he said. I think it was December.
And so I did speak up. I reached out to the head of talent relations, who I consider a friend, who I still write handwritten letters from Santa to every year, send the videos out. I don't brag about much, Ariel, but they are the best Santa videos in the business. And I can prove that if you ever want to have me on with showcase a couple of these videos. I take a lot of pride in them. And so basically, I give up the Legends deal. It runs out at the end.
Okay. Here's the part that tells you he meant it. He's going to explain why he meant it. He walked away from 2 high-paying WrestleMania gigs. Let's take a look.
The end of this month, I realized that by giving up 2 really easy, very high-paying jobs at WrestleMania week for WWE, that I had to work 24 hours on my own to make what I could have been 6, and I'm okay with that. So I'm good.
He's at peace.
Good with my decision. Everyone, I think, has to make a decision that's right for them. And in my case, I just didn't want to be in a position where my grandchildren are asking what their grandfather was doing when things were really, tough.
Okay.
And I want my children to be able to say, this is what Grandpa did. So I made the move that I felt was right for me. I love that company. I'm not going to disparage them.
Okay, fair enough.
But it didn't seem like a good fit. Didn't seem like a fit that would allow me to look at myself in the mirror before I went to bed.
When you make
That's pretty well. Like, he didn't agree with it, and he didn't force it, and he wanted to make sure in his words that he want his kids to see. They don't want to be in the position. He didn't want to be in the position where his grandchildren are asking what their grandfather was doing when things were in a certain situation. So, you know what? Fair enough for him. And you know what? He did not trash the company, as you can see. And most people, when they leave, sometimes they trash the company. Some don't, mostly don't, but there are some out there that just trashes the company. They go on X, they crap about it, they say, never gave me an opportunity, yada, 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 so on and so forth. And he didn't. I mean, he hopped around other companies too. He's one to hop around companies, but he was loyal to WWE for a very long time, even with the people they associated with. But I guess eventually something got a break, and for him, it was the situation that he just described. So, and listen, he did not, like I say, he didn't trash the company. He said plainly, I love the company. So I'm not going to disparage them. That's the whole tone of this whole story. A man of honor making a hard call and not throwing stones on the way out. Very professional of him. Now, here's where it gets human when he made the call. The first response is going to be interesting. So let's take a look.
Make that call and tell them that you'd like to do this and you feel this way. Do they try to convince you to change your mind? Do they have a conversation, or is it just like, okay, thanks for the call and we'll talk down the line?
Well, the first one was I respect your stance, and
Okay.
I'll tell the people that, I'll tell the people in charge. And then I did receive a call from someone really high up. I don't know if he wants me to mention his name, but he was saying, well, Paul is just on the physical fitness, like the physical fitness, not the bureau, but they're, whatever the name, just physical fitness group they have is. And he said, and Linda hasn't worked in WWE in, X amount of years. And I said, well, theoretically, that's the case. But I could have sworn I saw Paul behind the president's shoulder when he was making foreign policy, which I think is true. And it's like, whether Linda's been working for the company or not, her last name is McMahon, and she's associated with the company. And then I said, come on, 5 people in that Oval Office took the stunner. And so he appreciated it. He did say he respected it. I didn't close the door forever. I said in my announcement, as long as this man's in office. I think more and more people are realizing that some of the things he's doing are just cruelty for the sake of cruelty and enriching himself. And his polls, I'm not here to talk politics. Let's skip this after here, but it is the reason I left WWE. I just want to tell people who are listening that it's never too late to do the right thing. The best time to have made your voice heard.
So he might have lost some friendships over this, but he's still making it work. It's Mick Foley after all. Hopefully it doesn't hurt some friendships a lot, or maybe they can be fits later on. But it is what it is. You gotta stand to your morals, and if you stood to your morals, hopefully it works out for you.
Now, and if this guy, President of the United States, ratings dip into the teens, then maybe he'll be forced to make some changes. Nobody wants to go down as the worst president in the history of this country. So maybe I'm naive, but maybe you can appeal. If there are better angels of his nature, maybe they can still be appealed to. But I'm not so sure there are. He's definitely a different type of person, and I don't mean that in a good way.
Just curious, did you hear from Paul Levesque?
No, I did not hear from Paul or any of the McMahon family. Yeah, that's the one. That's the saddest part, is that I really did have great history with Paul, and was a good friend of Paul's, and Stephanie was at their wedding. Vince McMahon meant so much.
I mean, I'm assuming Mick Foley also, just like Maven, were forced to go to Triple H's bachelor party that he showed up late. And I guess he went to him and Stephanie's wedding. But anyway,
Much to me. So I knew going in that was probably going to affect those friendships. But in an earlier post I did that it got a lot of attention, I pointed out that, throughout my 15 full-time years in wrestling, I drove with a multitude of driving partners. These are people you would see more often than you saw your own family. You drove with them, you split a room with them, you did your meals with them, you went to the gym when I went to the gym. And I was looking at it like, wow, with the exception of one guy, Jim Cornette, I wouldn't have called any of these people progressive. Like they were either independent or cued a little bit conservative. And I didn't have a problem with anybody. So I think we just need to get back to a point where we can understand that we need two strong parties, but we don't need someone, just dominating to the point where, our elected leaders are just.
Anyway, it's getting a little too political, but at the end of the day, the main point when it comes to us with wrestling, this guy's been, I'm assuming, at the bachelor parties and then at the wedding, but all this history between them, and at least with Stephanie and the McMahons, maybe not much as Triple H as he says, but when it was time for him to go, he got a quiet exit. He knew his choice would cost him his friendships, and it did. And unfortunately, instead of getting a clean exit, maybe a goodbye or whatever, he got a quiet one. He was, I think, the first one to announce that he left. When it came to online, he didn't get a best endeavors or anything like that. Now, beyond that, there's a twist that we need to talk about. This whole career. And this, I think, is a twist that most people miss when it came to Foley. So let's take a listen.
Well, it had been a little while past. Now, I have known Tony Khan for 15 years. So
15 years.
I had a really good lunch with Tony before he got into wrestling in Jacksonville. And I always considered him, if not a friend, then a friendly acquaintance. Like even during AEW shows, I would direct message him. For example, I would say, "Hey, Tony, is it possible to get the rights to Thunderstruck by AC/DC for Thunder Rosa?" Or I might say, "Wow, that's a great show." And I really was not testing the waters. I was just reaching out to somebody who I liked to let them know that I was enjoying his product.
So they were friends before WWE, the creation of AEW, or before he got into trying to do wrestling business. And he was just, they were friends before this wrestling business. So that's a very important thing to know when people start talking about, Mick Foley involved with AEW. He knew Tony for a bit. I don't know how. It would have been great if he explained how did he got to know him, but all we know is that he met him 15 years ago. So, and then to the point that he even offers some suggestions based on products that he is watching from them, which is great. Like, you're watching his product, right? And you're giving him suggestions. Like, if I was a young person creating a wrestling company and I just started in my first or so year, and I get messages from a hardcore legend or just a legend in wrestling in general who has a great thought of the business, give me suggestions, wouldn't you want to listen to their thoughts? I would. So it's great that they had this working relationship or a relationship, and I guess Tony listened into some of the things, which is great.
A few years back, I was asked if I'd be interested by fans. I was getting that a lot, and I joke around. I'd say, well, I think they've got the old guys standing around ringside. They've got that market cornered, and they did at that time. But things have changed, and I think that it's more effective. Sometimes less is more, so they don't have as many managers. I knew I wasn't interested in doing a figurehead
type.
Commissioner. I was looking for the right word.
Oh no, please, let's not bring Commissioner Foley back. We're good.
Figurehead commissioner, general manager,
Are
because
we
I've
doing
done
that?
Before, and I think the shows actually work best when there's not as much shine on the figurehead commissioner, authority figure, I was thinking.
Okay.
And then Barry Bloom, my agent, came to me and he said, I've been talking with, he asked me if I wanted him to talk, and I said, yeah.
So this was months later, by the way, after, not right after, apparently. It was months after he left WWE.
Yeah, I would like that. So we did. He had a nice talk with Tony Khan. Then I had a nice talk with Tony Khan. I mean, this is months after, the decision with WWE went down. Because honestly, Ariel, really happy and content doing my own thing.
Probably right his nuts, but
The nostalgia world is treating me pretty kindly, especially after the pandemic.
okay.
And I was out there literally 330 days on the road last year, which is more than I was ever on. Now, there might be times when I have 2 days off, and instead of flying home to spend 8 hours with my kids and flying back, I'll just stay on the road for 2 days and relax and recoup. But in those 330 days, I didn't even get a cough or a cold. 5 years at a certain point, 5 years running, I'd gotten pneumonia every single year. And then I would get a diagnosis. Okay, you need two weeks bed rest. In my ear, I'd hear 2 weeks bed rest. The other ear would be coming out going, okay, you'll be on that plane tomorrow to Dallas. And you're
Oh
not
my
missing
God.
work. So, but now you see
He's crazy. He's crazy that he did that.
Kyle Busch died of pneumonia. And man, I'm going to put myself in the best possible position to not get sick like that by really trying to take care of myself. I've lost a lot of weight. I'm eating healthier. I'm feeling
Good for him.
better. I believe in the healing powers of Crystal Gale's voice also. That's been a big deal. I'm wearing her shirt here, so.
I love it. And congratulations, by the way. 100 pounds, I do believe you've lost.
Wow.
Yeah, I sure have. Yeah, thanks, Ariel. I appreciate that.
That's great. I mean, he, as you can see, he wasn't desperate about, oh, I left WWE, I got to go to AEW now, yada yada yada. Like, you know, you've seen with other wrestlers, as soon as they leave or their contract gets expired, they get let go. As soon as the 90-day hit, they go for another thing or so forth. But obviously, I mean, for Mick Foley, he doesn't have to do that. He is already, for the most part, retired, as far as we know. And he has no want or desperation for work. I mean, he shows up at a con or anything, people will line up for him. He's pretty much set. And then he's also an author. He gets book deals or had book deals that's probably still creating income for him. So he's pretty set on his ways. So things just line up for him. So this is the part I think most people are going to come for, which is Foley's a Hall of Famer at this point with no agenda. He, for the most part, so when he starts comparing the two businesses, and it carries some weight always when he talks, because he's been around for a while, guys. He's done a lot of things. He's worked with different companies. He's worked with most of the big ones we know and some small ones. So he has that knowledge that everyone would love to pick on his brain about. But with that in mind, he does gonna eventually, when you start working at a different company, you start comparing things. So let's start with the first thing that he talks about, which I believe is about the Midcard.
Up a little closer to the top of the card. One thing I want to say, Ariel, is that this is one of the first things I said to Tony, is that AEW has done a really good job of making their mid-card mean something. And that's one place where I will compare them, the two companies, and say they do a much better job in the mid-card.
What does he mean by that?
I think, going back to the way WWE did things, they would build a tag team for 2-3 years, have them win the tag team title multiple times, and then two big stars who'd never teamed would face the tag team and destroy them, showing you that the tag team was never that important to begin with. That's
all right. So Midcard's important. He's comparing it to an older version of WWE, hitting that nostalgia of how things used to work, well, back in my day kind of deal, type of work. But honestly, that's his words. AEW does a much better job in the mid-card. He said that in the old WWE model, they build a tag team for stars, like they give them a couple of years, give them the titles. This fed them to like two big stars who never even teamed. Anyway, he's sending the message that the tag teams never mattered right now when it comes to WWE. He doesn't feel that with AEW. And honestly, I kind of have to agree when it comes to the tag teams. Honestly, AEW is doing better. Midcard, I mean, I don't know how great AEW is doing, but when it comes to more exposure, the Midcard is getting more exposure for the Midcard in AEW compared to WWE. If you don't believe me, why didn't Julia show up at Clash in Italy? That's all I have to say when it comes to WWE. Why wasn't she at Clash in Italy? She's a Midcard champion. Why wasn't she at her hometown? Celebrate with her hometown. A town she said very clearly she hasn't been in years. So back in back then we used to have a decent amount of matches with the Midcard. Not anymore. It's all over the place with WWE, and maybe AEW has a slight advantage. So maybe that's what Mick Foley is seeing. Anyway, let's go to his second point, which I believe is right here, and it's, I think, just the feeling of AEW. Let's take a look.
Well, I started tuning into both shows, and I honestly just felt like I gravitated more to the AEW product. Can I give you a theme park comparison?
Sure.
Ariel?
Sure.
Oh, theme park comparison. Look at Mick Foley being playful. This man being playful. That's why Mick Foley is a G.
So, I love my theme parks, right?
Yeah, man.
Santa's Village in New Hampshire, Storyland in Glen, Vermont, and there's a couple other phenomenal family-owned amusement parks. Holiday World in Santa Claus, Indiana, and Knoebels Grove in Elysburg, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
So
he just listed all the damn places to go this holiday season, guys. So I hope you mark those down, because I expect to hear from you guys where you went during the November and December months, because Mick Foley has given you a full list that you can check out.
In the case of Storyland, wow, a family owned and operated for some 60 years, and then a corporation bought it. And 2 years later, I go with my family, and on some accounts, it's nicer because they've had the money to put in a couple cool new rides, but it just loses a little bit of the magic. Do you know what I mean? And what I feel from watching the two shows is that AEW has that little bit of magic, and WWE has kind of lost it. I think when you're part of a corporation and the bottom line is everything, you take away from your mid-card by making it clear that what you're selling is more important than the product in the ring.
So there you go. His number 2 item, the magic. And this is honestly the line that'll stick with you. He gave theme park comparisons. A family-owned park run with love for 60 years gets bought out by a corporation. Now it's got nicer rides, but this is the but. It lost a little magic. Then he said flat out, AEW has that little bit of magic, and WWE has kind of lost it. I mean, where in the world does a 30-year company man say such a thing lightly? He wouldn't. He doesn't at all. He's a man that's calculative with his words. So honestly, that's a fan's heartbreak and a veteran honesty in one sentence. Now let's get to number 3 item. And this one is probably one of the other most important things. So let's take a look. It's how they call the matches.
And they'll come up to me and they'll talk to me about matches. Now, I can't prove this, but I wonder if part of the reason younger audience is drawn to matches from my era is because we called the matches. Like Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler were locked in on the matches. There weren't so many things they had to go to that would take people out of that suspension of disbelief.
I mean, it was very great when they did it because they worked in the moment, and I feel like there were less issues at hand. So it's good to be able to have that talent, especially now that it seems not many people have.
That's just a theory on my part, but I think, 10, 20 years down the line, the matches that JR called, whether it was with the King or whether it was Jim Cornette and WCW, they'll stand the test of time, I think, better than the current matches in WWE, because it seems like the matches are a means to an end instead of something to be enjoyed for themselves. So,
all right, that makes sense. Like, it's just a check mark. It's kind of like the whole King of the Ring situation we talked in an earlier video, that WWE is doing the matches as a means to an end and just check mark. It's not, while it is true that that's supposed to be part of the process, but it should be a series of enjoyment, like them being able to work together, have an opportunity to work together, call matches out together. It's important, because if you have a joy in doing that, then the match quality can be seen that it's better. You can see them being able to hit that chemistry together between wrestler and wrestler, and there's no chemistry, the match is going to feel flat or generic, I guess. Anyway, I mean, that's honestly, all these 3 points is the thesis of this whole story. He didn't leave because of one bad angle. He drifted away when the magic faded, and AEW handed it back to him. And we can take a look at his own version of the video outside of the Ariel Helwani, where he talks about it and what he felt when he went to the AEW event. So let's hear him out right here.
I'm excited about where this adventure is going to take me. I consider myself like a Swiss Army knife, and I can be used a lot of different ways. And I'm excited about the future, and I'm excited about wrestling in a way that I haven't been in a few years. And I want to thank AEW fans and the AEW product for helping me fall in love with professional wrestling all over again.
I mean, that's important. Those three statements he brought up in the Ariel Helwani basically led him to this statement right here, which is him being in love with wrestling again. The way he enjoyed his time with the fans, the way he spent time at the event, he saw something that he hasn't seen in a while since he was younger. And he fell in love with wrestling, which is kind of sad. A man that was working in wrestling for pretty much all his life has pretty much, he was at a point that he lost it. He had no care for it anymore, which is kind of sad. Like, imagine if you're, I don't know, a horror movie fanatic and the horror movie's been so bad that you don't watch anything anymore or any horror movies anymore. If you're a big video gamer and games have gotten so bad that you stop playing. Like, you even playing the old ones get you upset because you cannot relive that initial magic that when you used to play that game again, or that game the first time, cannot be relived because everything is not to your liking. But here comes another group that makes those games and you're like, ooh, love. It's kind of like some of the people out there that don't like the new remake of Final Fantasy because it doesn't feel like Final Fantasy yet. When Expedition 33 came out, it brought all those feelings back, and that's why Expedition 33 get all the accolades and the love that it did last year. It's that kind of thing. Like, some people said, might as well say, like, if someone was so disheartened by Final Fantasy or games like it, the modern eras of them, that Expedition 33 brought your love back to JRPGs or RPGs again. That's how probably Mick Foley feels when it comes to wrestling. I mean, it's a weird analogy. If you guys don't play video games, I mean, you guys probably are like, what the hell you're talking about? I'm a gamer too, so that's kind of like a best analogy I can do when it comes to that. But anyway, later on in this video, it gets a little personal for him because Helwani asks if Foley sees himself in AEW and then within the company. So let's hear him out.
I do also wonder if there's any part of you that sees yourself in AEW and maybe even in Tony. You know, last week I said, I called Tony the little engine that could. And some of the fans online were like, how could you call a billionaire the little engine that could? But if you actually understand what's going on here, it's one singular guy, not backed by anyone else, no greater entity supporting him, going up.
No TKO backing up Tony except his dad. Like, let's be real. Like, yes, no company backing Triple H and Nick Khan up, like $1 billion company, but Tony's dad is backing him up. Let's be a little real, but yeah, I mean, not a corporate company, no big sponsor, big company takeover. I get it. Anyway.
Against this machine and not backing down, he to me is the little engine that could. And you have always been that guy. You've always been the underdog. You've always been the sort of guy that everyone, you wrestled in sweatpants, for goodness sakes, when you were at your peak. And so I wonder if you kind of connect more with that as opposed to what you're seeing on the other side of the fence. Do you feel that way now that you've been there backstage?
That's a really good question. I do. I think I do connect. I do connect with a guy like Tony, who's a little bit different. You know, I gave the promo about Darby because I knew he was a guy who was different.
By the way, that was a great promo between him and Darby Allin, but also with MJF in Double or Nothing. Definitely check it out.
And a lot of people find comfort in professional wrestling because they may not be as comfortable with themselves, outside of that world. And I think the best move I ever made in wrestling was having the confidence to believe that I could speak to fans who were outside of the fans we were marketing to. Like, I remember thinking, not everybody's hip and slick and cool. I knew for a fact I'm not hip and slick and cool. I remember thinking to myself, there's a lot more of me out there than there is of them. And that.
Oh, wow. So he sees it. He's an underdog who wrestles in sweatpants, and he sees himself in Tony Khan and everyone else in there. That's great. He sees it in Darby Allin. He probably sees in Darby Allin the quiet kid who didn't fit in. Kind of mimics who Foley was when he was 17, if you think about it. He found out only 6 weeks ago that he's been an inspiration to Darby, to be honest, to his whole career, similar to Sting, which is great. Now, there's more talk about his future in the career in AEW, and let's get to it because this might be something we have to pay attention in the weeks to come.
To my fans to do it on every televised event. So I'll try to talk with Darby. I didn't know until about 6 weeks ago that I was an inspiration in his career, because I'd known him since he was probably 17 years old.
Wow.
Going back 10 years. I don't know the exact timeline. I don't know exactly how old Darby is, but he was he really was the quiet kid who looked like he didn't quite fit in. So the promo I gave that genuinely seemed to fire him up was all from the heart. And they were all factual. They were all statements based in fact. But I will have that talk with him and try to find out, like, there's got to be another gear where you can allude to the things, give people 80% of what you usually do, knowing that the vast majority of his fans will be thankful for what he gives them, and they will understand that they might have to wait until a special event to get the
payoff. The payoff. I mean, Foley knows the road. He's lived it and the wreckage of it as well. So it's great that he'll be there for others to be able to. He will be able to listen into them and so forth. Give some pep talk, I guess, will be the best way to say it. Now he also starts talking about MJF, so let's take a look.
I'll give him the best advice I possibly can.
In my opinion, right now, the best heel in the business is MJF.
Oh, yeah.
I think he's on fire. Would love to hear your thoughts on him and how he did in that match, but overall, the body of work, what he's been doing as of late.
Well, I was sold on MJF from the moment I saw him at an independent show in Alaska.
Yo, MJF wrestling in Alaska, props to him, man. Pretty far.
Maybe 2018, 19, somewhere around there. I thought, man, what a fantastic independent heel this guy is. Honestly, I didn't think he could project toughness at that point. And I thought, hey, nothing wrong with being a great independent heel. But I don't know if he can project toughness to the point where he can contend with the top guys in either organization.
Which makes sense, but that's why in past interviews, MJF noticed that he was great at one thing, but he also needed to become greater in other things to be considered the best there was. So that's when MJF started, working on his health, getting fitter, so forth. So now what he saw then in Alaska, I'm assuming it's not the case anymore because, MJF is built as hell now. He is trying to perfect every little weakness that he sees to become the best overall wrestler in AEW, but probably the most demanded one as well.
And I'm happy to admit I was wrong on that, because he does. He can and he does, and he was good already on the microphone. But this guy, I don't think it's an exaggeration to say he's the best in the business on the microphone right now. He's good. I mean, he's not good. He's great.
He's great.
When I was toe to toe with him, I don't know if I quite did justice to the words in my head where I was want to say, can we just take a moment to appreciate the magnitude of what's happening right now? Because I didn't think I was ever going to be in a ring, maybe in a ring that size, waving to people, thanking them for, their kindness. But I didn't think I'd be in a ring helping create interest for a main event.
Well, speaking of that, a big question that showed up, which has some people on the internet going back and forth about it, is him being asked about one more match. Let's hear what he says.
I don't know. I think that clearly if I had a match, it would have to be a match that would avoid trauma to the head.
Yep.
Luckily, there's a whole lot of me to traumatize below the neck. So I think I have one more last good match in me.
Really? I don't know, man. I don't know. I think Mick Foley, for the sake of his livelihood, I just don't know, man. I've seen him walk at cons and everything. I mean, he is in good spirits. He looks like he's walking healthy, but I personally, I don't know. Like we've seen the Ric Flair last match event that they did and how that went. I just, for Foley's sake and for people to remember him by him doing the last match, who knows how it may turn out. It may not turn out as much as he would believe in his head. And the fact that he can't do certain things because he may get traumatized, most things happen, for the most part, your head gets affected during the match one way or another. So him getting traumatized in the head, it's a tall order.
Wow.
I just believe it would have to, all the stars would have to align. All the stars would have to align It would have to make sense. And Ariel, honestly, like maybe that long-term goal of dropping an elbow off a TV truck onto a parked car. I had a serious talk with myself and realized just how much my hip replacement and later a knee replacement changed my life.
Yeah, probably also cost-wise too to do it.
And I don't think they've got statistics on former knee replacement recipients dropping elbows off of TV trucks to park cars. Like, as a 50-50 chance, it could undo all.
Like more 25-75% chance, dude, man.
Good. That brought me. I don't know if I'm ready to take that chance, but I find my mind wandering sometimes, coming up with ideas that look better than they hurt, that rate high.
Let's just leave it at that, because honestly, Mick, I don't know if you'll ever hear this video, but like I have a deep appreciation for what you did to this business, the matches, the moments, the core memories you've given to a lot of people that are in love with wrestling and some that have become wrestlers themselves. But the last thing we want to do, in all honesty, is see you get hurt. And if you've had knee replacement, hip replacement, you can't do much with your head because you may get head trauma. I don't know, what else can you do? I mean, you can assist in a match, be a valet, or maybe a tag team might be the most minimal, but I don't know, man. You do that type of thing, it won't look like the magic you like about AEW, because WWE tries to do this with old wrestlers. It always turns out bad. It doesn't look real. And if you are in deep appreciation of how AEW is doing wrestling, this is not something you should do then, if you have that respect for that type of magic. I'm just letting you know my thoughts on that, because I think it won't look genuine, because we have the wrestlers that are involved in the match have to worry about all the issues you have in your body. And rightfully so, you're a hardcore legend. You went through so much trauma that, yeah, unfortunately your body is receiving the checks right now. Can you really go with it? And I really don't think you should. I just think I don't want to remember seeing like the last match of Foley and something bad. Like he gets really hurt that it hurts me seeing it, and anyone. And I don't want that relived similar moment with the Ric Flair last match. But anyway, here's where I land on this, and you may agree with why he left. You may not also. And Foley himself said, let's not get lost in the politics of it, which I have to agree. Let's get into the wrestling. The lesson isn't the why, honestly, when it comes to all this. It's the how. He believes something in his heart, and he made a hard and unfortunate, expensive choice, because now he can't get the WWE money, which is easier to generate than other ways. Now, luckily he didn't burn the bridge on the way out, because that's Mick Foley for you. He'll leave for his honorable choices, but he is also a man of honor, and he is professional about things. Now, and the fact that AEW didn't just give him a job, it gave him back the magic that he saw in wrestling, and gave him a smile, as you see even here. And that's the real story about this. All the things that I'm talking about has been backed up throughout this whole video, and they're all his own words. Now, if you want to see the full hour of this, yeah, it's almost a full hour of the Ariel Helwani interview. I'll drop the link in the video description so you guys can sit down and react on your own, watch it, and see if you agree with the points I made in this video. I think this interview is worth the time watching, especially if you're a good old Mick Foley fan. But anyway, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. And as always, hit the hit right, hit the like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video.